a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show. It's been a little bit of an absence. I hope you guys haven't missed me too much. I know that my replays have been on for the last few weeks. I apologize for not being present. Sometimes life happens and you just have to go with that flow. But welcome back for the first live show in over a month for the Dr. Kevin Show. And here on the Dr. Kevin Show, we're always about trying to bring you a different perspective, bring in people that are weaving a web of light in the world or making change or just challenging us to think. You know, one of the things that I think that we are not putting enough emphasis today on is this whole idea of teaching people to think, not what to think, but to think. And before I introduce my guest tonight, first of all, I want to remind people that we are a live call-in show. You can call in at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. Or you can always come onto OMTimes and you can grab the show afterwards. But obviously, you don't get to ask any questions, whether it's of me or of the guest, or if you just wanted to share some insight about the topics that we're talking about. We're always welcome to that, as long as it's respectful. All we ask is that you be respectful. So feel free to call in. And, you know, it's been a while since I've done a hot topic. And I'm kind of setting myself up to do a hot topic. And, you know, one of the reasons is, you know, for me, the hot topic is something that either warms the cockles of my heart or gets me hot under the collar. And then my poor guest, on the fly, gets to share whatever insights or thoughts that, in tonight's case, she has about it. And I'm sure that she will have some thoughts and insights. I have great confidence that this guest will not leave us, will not disappoint. So tonight's hot topic is about thinking. It is the hot topic of thinking and the importance of thinking and the importance of critical thinking and the importance of, we want to encourage ourselves and especially our children to be exposed to a variety of thoughts, not to indoctrinate them. If you want your kids indoctrinated, well, there's a very large list of organizations, many of them churches, that I can recommend for indoctrination. They do it well and they do it all the time. But if you want your child to ask good questions, to think for themselves, to evolve into a person who makes the world a better place, then we want to teach them how to think. We want to expose them to different things to see what works and what doesn't work for them. We want to encourage them to do that. And, you know, the thing is I've been watching this, and this is part of the hot under the collar part of it is, you know, we've had places like Targets that have been basically bullied by what is actually a small group of people to move their pride displays to the back of the store or take things down, or people have backed away because this very small but very loud, vocal, angry, just hateful group that misidentify themselves often as Christians, and I do say that seriously, misidentify themselves as Christian, because there's nothing Christian in any of those actions, are just loud enough and just concentrated enough. There have been thousands of book bans in this country this year, and it comes down to a group, I believe I read it was 11. It goes back to 11 people who have organized and have sent out to their very fringe, as Papa, my father always used to say, religious nutcases, that they fuel them up with the perfect package of how to get the books banned and how to get the people into the school board positions to make sure that we move this to a fascist country called Christian nationalism. But they all cycle out of 11 people. 11 people are affecting millions of children's education because they're well organized, because people are apathetic, because they're not catching them on. They have these little nifty names that they work through, like Mums for Liberty and Christian nationalism. Any really fundamental-based religion, any of the fundamentalists of any and every religion think cult. They're indoctrinating and they're a cult. And they get control by working through these very, very disciplined fanatics to try to impose their view of God and the world and how things should be on everybody else. And they do it by slipping people into school boards and into positions of power in local towns and cities. But it's a small group. It is not the majority of Americans. And it is certainly not the majority of Christians, poor Christians. Their religion has been taken away from them and turned into something horrible by these loudmouth freaks. And we need to speak up. So why am I hot under the collar? I'm not a Christian, never have been, wasn't raised as one. But I love a lot of Christians. I know a lot of Christians. I know people who actually act like Christians, and they're beautiful people. And they're getting screwed over by these jokers. And they need to speak up, and we need to speak up that we are not going to let them take away our democracy, our right to read, and our children's right to be who they are. So that's my hot topic. Nothing heavy, nothing big, nothing I'm sure that my today's guest won't be able to have some kind of comment on. I mean, I just thought I'd start back slowly now that I'm back on air after my small absence with just a tiny, tiny little issue that's going on today. Today's guest is Ashley Olstein. She's the owner of Solstice Intuitive Arts. She's an eclectic psychic medium, intuitive soul guide, channeled artist, intuitive tarot and oracle card reader. She's a trance medium and healer, Reiki healer, master using Usui Holy Fire 3, Karuna, and Lightarian Reiki, also an Angelic Reiki practitioner. I know Ashley personally, and I always love it when I get to bring on and highlight people that I personally know are doing really good work in the world. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Kevin. I'm happy to be here.
So, I know, because we have talked about it, you are not a political person, but this was not actually a political conversation. So, any thoughts on the book banning or any of the things I said? I'm sure there's something you must have to add to this.
Well, I have a lot of feelings about a lot of it. I'm a mom. I have two daughters. They're adults. But I'm seeing a shift in the schools and even around here. There's just a little bit of a shift and an intolerance. They have this blanket of tolerance that, we understand and everyone's welcome. And I think that that's just this blanket that goes over. And in actuality, there's a lot of intolerance and judgment. Now I'm talking more about less about the book bans and more about letting kids be who they are and expressing themselves as who they want to be.
Well, and, part of it is that there is so much of this that is being done in a really bullying way. It's really bullying. I mean, if you watch any of these video clips or some of these stuff, they're such bullies. And, they're going after, drag queens, and they're going after transgendered, and they're going after minorities, and they're going off this with a holier than thou, high and mighty something up there, whatevers. But they're bullies. They're just horrible bullies, and they're horrible examples that just a few years ago, we were doing all of these anti-bullying campaigns, And now we have all of these bullies on school boards and trying to control classrooms and all of this stuff. So it does kind of shake me up a little bit that they have gotten so seated and gotten so much power when they really are such a minority. But, that's what happens. A minority gets in power and then disempowers the majority who are not paying attention. And before you know it, all of the cards are stacked against you. And people are, making voting more difficult and speaking out more difficult. And everybody's in league with the devil that doesn't agree with them. So speaking about league with the devil, how's your relationship with the devil these days, Ashley?
We're doing okay. We're doing okay. He keeps an eye, and I keep an eye on him.
They always say, better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Right? Exactly. I tend not to think about the devil much, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, what can I say? I try to keep my eye on the real devil and then ignore all of the fake ones. That being said, so talk to me. So tell me a little bit about where you would like to take our listeners outside the box of anything you want. I like to open this up to my guests to choose what insight would they like to share with our listeners.
Coincidentally, it has a lot to do with what you brought up earlier. What I'd love to kind of dive into is how robotic and closed off most people are right now. They're going through the motions. Majority, they're kind of not paying attention, and the minority gets this chance to. This kind of sheep mentality of needing to get to no thought about what's happening in the moment. It's all about getting to the next place, thing, the next.
So you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's me or if it's you. Okay. So I got what you said about the robotic, and just all trying to get to the next place. Could you pick it up from there for us?
Yep, and just trying to get to the next thing instead of being in the moment and really just enjoying the present moment. As instead of just moving forward, I'm relocating. About breaking up, by the way.
Yeah, you are still breaking up a little bit, but we heard, about getting to the next moment. And it's interesting because I think that, so many, one of the things that I'm going to tie what you're saying up into what we were saying before is the bullying. Oftentimes, bullies are looking for something that makes somebody unique or different because obviously, especially the way that we socialize and the way that our current school systems work, fitting in and being part of the right crowd, being popular is everything. And being unique and quirky is a sin unless it's done in just a way where you get to be your own little mini leader.
Yeah.
It's just that fine line. Make sense?
Yes, I agree.
So on that, I look at it as the quirky. Outside of the quirky, it's this robotic, this kind of, I want to be part of the in crowd. I want to be part of the light, which means I have to be normal. And we punish the people who aren't normal because they have the nerve to not be normal. So, does that make sense?
Very much, very much. And, another way to look at it, as opposed to the nerve to not be normal, but the gumption to not be normal, the bravery.
So you wanted to talk about this. Do you have some thoughts about how do we solve this, or how did this happen, or how do we address this?
I think that how it happens, I think that technology, every, forward motion that we've made has made us into this massive of movement. We want the next thing. It's always something bigger, better, flashier. So people are always trying to achieve that next step rather than really just enjoy what's right there in front of them. I think that people should take more time to get quiet with themselves, to really just be right now, because that's all that there really is. They just need to enjoy themselves in that moment.
Yeah. And, when people need to be in the now, but also be aware of who they are and how are they experiencing the now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we look at that, it sounds like the first step is a commitment to not be normal.
Fair enough.
So is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, what's normal, really, when you peel that back? But yes, to not be a sheep, to not just want to fit in and be like everybody else, to embrace your uniqueness.
Well, and so some of uniqueness, some of what helps us discover our uniqueness, like, let's say, something that may help us discover that we are really good at doing haikus is to know what a haiku is.
Yes.
So that means you have to be exposed to a haiku.
Yes, yeah? and I think in a lot of situations, children and people aren't being exposed to all of the options out there. They're just closed off in their little bubble.
So I'm going to run a theory by you, and you are not obligated ever to agree with me. In fact, I love people who disagree with me. And I love people who agree with me because, in general, I just love people. It is, with some notable exceptions that I'm very proud of. Anyways, is when we became math and science obsessed, when we downgraded English, and when we started eliminating the arts and creativity as viable parts of a curriculum, I think that was the doorway that led to what with the problems we are having today. What do you think?
I think that's a really interesting perspective. I hadn't really thought of it in those terms, but as much as I want to disagree with you about something, this isn't it. I would agree with you.
Because it's in creativity that we find our uniqueness.
Yes, and I think that's something that's missing for a lot of younger people. I think that it's extinguished in the educations that we're providing right now.
Yeah, I mean, we have this thing where now we're trying to limit the variety of books they can read. Before, we were eliminating the creative experiences they could have. And we've never allowed them to be intuitive beings. We've never talked to them about actually being, not religion, but being something that is more than the physical body. Right?
Yeah, I think it's a big miss there. That's a missed opportunity to be, expanded full human beings. Less emphasis on the human part, but on the beings part, to really step into your full self.
Well, and also, some of the programs that they're attacking and they're closing down or they're saying are bad is teaching kids to be empathetic or sensitive. Like, that has no place in the school system. There are school systems that have challenged and thrown those programs out as inappropriate to teach kids how to be sensitive and compassionate.
So disappointing.
Yeah. So we're kind of dancing around a lot of topics here. But what I'd like to do now is I'm going to put this show in reverse for a second, and I'm going to have you share a little of how did you become all of these things I listed at the beginning? How did you become this intuitive soul artist, healer, blah? Share how did your spiritual journey unfold?
Sure. So I think, I come from an intuitive line of women. And when I was younger, I was more tuned in, and I actually just embraced what it was, never knowing it was different. Well, it was just kind of what was normal in my family, with my mom, my aunt, my grandmother. But then flash forward to becoming an adult and getting married and having children, it became less important. And it actually, I kind of liken it to going to sleep. That part of me just went underground for a while. Around midlife, it came back pretty aggressively in a insatiable curiosity is how mine began, where I really just wanted to know everything. And I got so excited by remembering this part of myself that had been shut down for so long. And so this insatiable curiosity just brought me to all kinds of classes and mentors and workshops, and I really just tried to experience everything and figure out where felt the most like home. And what I was finding was kind of all of it feels like home. I consider everything that I'm learning to be a tool in my toolbox, and it collectively is becoming who I am and what I enjoy doing.
Well, and it's so interesting because you said the term, remembering. And I always like that coming together of to remember is to put the member back together. And just like when we talk about healing, to heal is to make whole. And there is a very harmonious energy that those concepts overlap. That we're born with an insatiable curiosity to explore our wholeness until at some point that wholeness starts to get chopped into acceptable and unacceptable pieces.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And so a lot of times, and I'm going to see if this is also your experience, I know in my experience in my work, a lot of times it is about helping people to remember who they were before it was shut down, stolen, taken away, made bad, in their childhood to bring back that insatiable curiosity to understand what being all of me means. Like, it's a journey to discover that wholeness. That remembering is trying to put all of those parts of myself together.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say that in my experience as well, that would be almost definitely the majority, almost 100% of the people that I'm working with. It's that remembering, showing them who they really, really are when they strip back all of those parts and pieces that were put on through schooling, education, society, family, all of that, just peeling that back and really seeing who's underneath there.
Yeah, as you heard me say at the beginning in my hot topic, one of my favorite words right now is indoctrination, and the amount of indoctrination we get to be other than who we are, to be fit into somebody else's mold. So I know that you have a couple of different things that are coming up for you, and we're going to talk about those when we come back, and we're going to talk about how they're tying together everything we've been talking about this in the first half of the Dr. Kevin Show. We'll be right back here with Ashley Olstein. Remember, live call-in, 202-570-7057. Feel free to hop in with your questions at any time, and we'll be right back.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. This week we have Ashley Olstein, and she is here to help us solve some of the problems of the world, which we have been laying down in this whole first half an hour, some of the stuff going on. She is the owner of Solstice Intuitive Arts, an eclectic psychic, medium, intuitive soul guide, channel artist, intuitive tarot, oracle reader, and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Come to Facebook, come to the Dr. Kevin Show Facebook page and like the page, and you can read about it and see the link to find her. And I realize in our write-up we don't have the link of where to find you, so where do people find you?
That makes it tricky. I can be found at www.solsticeintuitivearts with an S on the end.com.
Okay.
I could also be found on Facebook, Instagram, same name, Solstice Intuitive Arts. Thank you.
Great. So Solstice Intuitive Arts, Facebook it, Instagram it, .com it, and you will find Miss Ashley. So we've been talking about some stuff with the damage that shows up that creates these robotic people you talked about that are just kind of focused on some kind of oftentimes not authentic goal. I feel like there's a lack of authenticity when you have been so alienated from being able to explore, discover, embrace, love, be in relationship with your authentic self, because basically it doesn't fit, quote unquote, the norms of whatever your upbringing and environment and school and indoctrinations of all kinds created. Would you say that's a fair summary so far?
Yes, I do.
So we spotted out a number of different problems, and I know you have some solutions. So I'd like you to talk about some of the stuff and how it works in to help people step more into this more connected, remembered, whole, intuitive spiritual being. Tell me about some of what you're doing that leads to that.
Sure. One of the things that I have been developing with Spirit, they get more credit than I do. So my Spirit team, which, spirit guides, loved ones, have kind of nudged me in a different direction than I thought I was going. I was doing some channeled art for clients and for myself, in that I would meditate and create a piece of art for a sitter or the like. It's morphed from there through, again, nudges from my team, where I would have a sitter or a group of sitters, and I would teach them how to get quiet through meditation. I lead them through meditation. I get them more in the present moment. And through that energy, that mentality, or lack of mentality, actually, because this is really just checking your conscious mind off to the side and allowing your subconscious and your spirit to shine through. In that space, I've encouraged people to create their own paintings. So using color, movement, texture with paint on canvas, and allowing their soul to make a creation. And it's not anything about the outcome of the piece. It's really the process. A lot of people feel like they're going to be judged, and a person next to me can paint better than I can, or I've never painted before, and they feel intimidated. The outcome really isn't the important part. It's all about letting your soul express itself through the paint. And it's been a lot of fun.
Well, one of the other key elements, and of course we were laughing. Ashley and I crossed paths last week, and I'm going to say it, my husband Jeff is so notoriously bad at drawing and sketching that he was helping out with a Sunday school class of toddlers, and they were doing drawing, and he brought his drawing home and proved once again why his family refuses to have him on a team of Pictionary. As he quickly informed me that the toddlers had better drawings than he did. But brought me home the picture, and it's very proudly on my refrigerator. I just want that to be known. And I said, I know that you've got a class coming up, and if somebody is going to have this level of artistic block, because I know he's artistic, he's creative everywhere else, so I know it's a block, but if he's got this level, can you still help them? And can you share what you told me?
Oh, absolutely. He'd be my favorite client or sitter because he has the bravery to show you the picture that he made, even though he felt that it wasn't good enough. And so he has it all there. He just needs to take away the feeling of judgment or criticism, because it's not about that at all.
I think one of the key things I didn't hear you reference that I want to bring out, and again, knowing you and have spent time with you in other situations and gatherings and stuff like this, is I think one of the key things that has made this class, when you offer it, and we haven't actually talked about what the class is, because I know you have one of these coming up in July, but it is a crossover not only in non-judgment, but safety. And I feel that some of the energy that you bring, Ashley, is an environment that allows people to feel safe, and therefore not only to be vulnerable, but to step into that intuitive channel and flow and feel like this is a place where they can do it. And holding that kind of energy, I mean, we've all had a bad teacher in our past. We've all had some great teachers, but we've all had the bad teacher. We've all had the experience where somebody either looked at a drawing or looked at something we did and basically made us feel like we should apologize to the world for ever thinking we could do whatever it was, or that we're stupid, or that we have no creativity. And so I think that part of the important thing you do is not only help them connect, but it's the important that you create the safety of the space. Could you talk about that a little?
Sure, and I love how you put that, so thank you. In the workshops that we've been doing, there definitely is this feeling of community, because the people that come have a moment, several moments to get to know each other a little bit and just get a little bit more comfortable. And then through the course of the workshop, they really start to feel this lack of criticism. Nobody's looking over their shoulder. Nobody's judging what they're making. It's just encouragement. And the space, we try to bring the vibration up so that, everyone just has this feeling of peace and healing throughout the workshop.
So now, I know that now you have a few different versions of this you teach along the way, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, but I know that you have one coming up in July. Can you tell us a little bit about what this particular class is, the title, where, and who that's in our listening audience would go, oh, that would be the class for me?
Of course. So this class is going to be held in Nashua, New Hampshire. It's in July. And for this group, it's the type of people, just like your husband, who have a feeling of, I'm not a good artist. I don't want to feel judged. But everybody in there, no one's a professional. Everybody is just going for the actual experience of the meditation, which is how we started all, raising the vibration, feeling kind of held in the space and secure, safe, peaceful, healing, and then allowing their soul to paint using colors. So this is a pretty straightforward workshop that we're going to do in July, where there will be more advanced options from there. But this is going to be more of a introduction or beginner type of workshop where people can really get to feel what it's like to let go of that outcome.
Now, so it's in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Yes.
And I find it interesting that it is actually at a place called Positive Street Arts. So it's actually at an arts center, not a quote unquote spiritual center, but an arts center.
Correct.
So again, what's the name of this actual workshop?
This actual workshop is the art of letting go. So it is channeling your soul through art, the art of letting go. So you're allowing yourself to channel your spirit, your soul, through meditation.
The art of letting go. I love it. And you said July what?
This one is on July. I don't have my calendar right in front of me, so bear with me, the 16th. I didn't want to give you the wrong date. I knew it was in the teens. So July 16th, and it's in the middle of the day from 12 to 3, so that everyone has time to do their thing in the morning and still get home in time for dinner and family time. And it's in a beautiful space. The Positive Street Arts Workshop is a gorgeous space and with lots of beautiful light. So it's a really peaceful, lovely space to spend some time.
So can you, so now you work both as a psychic intuitive healer, but you're also a professional artist. Is that not true?
I don't know if I would call myself a professional artist, but I love that you think that. So yes, I consider myself an artist, but it's really from my soul. I could draw when I was younger, but the paintings that I do now are I would consider to be channeled. Okay, well, you have just invited me to have some fun. Oh dear.
That's all right. My audience is used to that. You won't be the first guest that I've decided to have some fun with. Okay. Because, we all, none of us walk out of this reality without carrying the weight of our, again, we're going to use my word of the month or the week or the day or the quarter, without being indoctrinated to a certain way. And it's so funny because one of the ways we got indoctrinated actually just really showed up with you and defining the fact that it was intuitive art, which in some ways, I think all art has an intuitive quality, that somehow it didn't make you a real artist. Huh? Well, explain that difference to me.
Very good point.
I think, and the thing is, we all do it. We all look and say, hey, we were defined, certain things were or were not considered artistic. And one of the things that's so important out there for all my listeners to remember as I tease my guest, who I'm sure will never come back on the show again after I do this tour, is this whole idea of subjective versus objective. And, art is just an expression of creativity where you are in union with your own divine self. And so you and your own divine self create it. It's art. It counts. Boys and girls out there.
You're right. It does. I am a work in progress. Sometimes I will sell myself short. That's one of my limiting self-beliefs that I'm trying to work through with art, among other things.
Well, and I think that that's another interesting thing, and it's one of the reasons I love what you're doing. You know, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Part of the reason I'm such a big fan is that we need people that are out there not just doing it, but also being honest about their journey. That they too, even now, sometimes can struggle a little bit. Like, it's not like I'm not like Michelangelo. I'm not a Rembrandt. I'm not a whatever. Well, honey, that's good. Those roles were taken. You can't have them.
Exactly.
You guys get to be an Ashley Olstein. But I think it's important for our listeners to, so often teachers, people who put themselves out as teachers, almost feel like they have to come across as if they've mastered everything, instead of saying, hey, I'm on my path of mastery. And in this path of mastery, I still have my struggles. There are places I still go, but that makes that teacher not only a good teacher, because then people don't feel like they're kind of like, oh yeah, well, of course it's easy for them. They've got it all figured out. I'm struggling. If you go, hey, the teacher struggles sometimes. Sometimes the teacher makes stuff like that. That the teacher's on this journey, and they're a place on the journey where I can learn and be in a better place on my journey. I think time you think that you've found a teacher that is perfect and has evolved, you're probably being scammed.
Yeah. Agreed. I will be a forever learner, for sure. I will never be a complete. I learn something every time I work with somebody else. I learn something from them. So I'm constantly on that path.
And that's what makes the best teachers. I always say when I go into classes, the difference between the student and the teacher is the student theoretically knows what they're in there to learn, and the teacher never knows what they're in there to learn.
That's true.
And so I know that every class I've ever taught has something to teach me. And if I can stay connected, and I will even say a word people most don't usually associate with me, humble enough, then with every class I teach, I end up being a better teacher for the next class.
Most definitely.
So we talked about the problems at the beginning that you took us on about people living in kind of a robotic, disconnected way. We talked about connecting more with their intuitive, which you do through this class, helping them to open up to intuitive flow. Do you feel like you also do that in your practice?
Oh, yeah, definitely. One thing I wanted to mention also, which kind of just takes one step backwards, is about working with kids. And that's something that I'm really interested in doing in my next steps, and teaching children the same type of thing, to get quiet, to not feel judged or intimidated by any of, any creative process they want to endeavor, but to really just learn how to tap into themselves. I'm excited to try that with younger people, because I think that will be kind of an explosion. I think if they can actually touch into that it will grow exponentially very quickly for them, which will be exciting to see.
Well, and I think that part of this is about having a better definition that there is a skill set part of art that can be very helpful. As one of my great teachers, Wei Chi, said, and it was, that all structure was created to transcend, but one cannot transcend what one does not have. And I think learning all of the basic skills of art can be very helpful for some kinds of artists, for some not so much. But from there, it's just like with a musician. Some of the most fabulous, intuitive musicians all studied all the classics and know all of the absolute ways in which things were done and built on it. And so art is, it's that what makes, one of the things that makes art your art is not developing and perfecting a skill set, but is to take whatever skill set you have and look at art like an interpretive dance. That it's your interpretation of whatever it is you're drawing. And it's not about the skill set. The skill set is something you learn or you don't learn. Some people will never be able to draw a straight line. Some people will never be able to walk a straight line. Hell.
But what a beautiful path that is.
Yeah, but so it is about that fact of taking that, and that's why I love you want to work with kids, is say, hey, yeah, we can talk about drawing a stick figure, and you can practice all you want, and there's some great things, and here's some body mechanic charts, and they're going to tell you how to draw a perfect face or a perfectly aligned stuff, but it doesn't become your art until it becomes interpretive, until it is the unique representation of you. Now, the other thing we talked about was book banning, and I know that you've got some stuff going on with books yourself. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure thing. I also have been hosting a monthly book club, and this is a metaphysical book club where we'll pick a book and dive into it and have, nice discussion about the topic, du jour. So every month has been a different book. Some have been about signs and symbols that you get from spirit. We did Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, which I found to be really profound. I hadn't read it until recently, which I'm glad I did. And I think that it's helping me with a lot of the ways. It's actually giving me a definition for the ways that I've been feeling. So he gave me some words to describe how I feel about living in the moment. And so this month we are doing Mitch Albom's book called The Stranger in the Lifeboat. It's a quick read. We figured for the summer it would be nice to do a shorter book, and but it's got a lot of content, and it will be a very exciting discussion. I think that it's about the belief of God, and you can exchange the word God for anything that works for you, divine, source, Allah, whatever, but just that higher power. And it's about believing in it wholeheartedly.
Well, on this show, we all know my favorite, The Great Pumpkin. I always, thought The Great Pumpkin was kind of like rocking it. So now again, give us Facebook.
Yes.
Because if they do Facebook, if they do Instagram, if they do a website, they're going to go where?
So if you go to www.solsticeintuitivearts.com, there's sign up there for the monthly book club. You can go to New Hampshire Metaphysical on their calendar. That's newhampshiremetaphysical.com. There's a sign up there as well. And my Facebook is under Solstice Intuitive Arts, and there are links, etc., there, so you can get the book of the month. And I do take suggestions, by the way. If anybody has a book they want to dive into, I would love to hear about it. And I would certainly consider it.
I also happen to know, and I just want to remind people that New Hampshire Metaphysical is nhmetaphysical.com, that Ashley is going to be a reader at our Psychic Arts Fair in July. Yes. And now I'm the one with my pants down because I don't have the date off the top of my head. I'm thinking it's around the 22nd, but I'm not sure. But if you go to nhmetaphysical.com, you can see, and Ashley will be there offering in-person readings all day. That's in Nashua, New Hampshire. And it's actually at the same location, for those of you who may have joined us at our last fair, that her workshop's going to be. Ashley, Thank you for coming. I hope you have enjoyed it.
I have. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Kevin.
Okay, and we'll be back next week with Planetary Influences with Rob Stewart here on the Dr. Kevin Show.